Hello and welcome. Thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Mike Wells and I am a project manager and resource advisor with Atticus. And today we are presenting to you how to dominate the family law market. And it's going to be hosted and presented by Mark Powers, our founder. There are a few issues we'd like to go over with you before we begin. First, I want to ask you to just take out, if you can, some paper and pen at the ready and be prepared to take some notes. Mark will have a lot of things that he'll be saying and showing you, and you'll want to be able to have those with you afterward. Also, if you have a question or there's a message you want to send in to me, you can raise your hand icon on the GoToWebinar dashboard or type in a chat message there as well to me to ask questions. If you'd like that question to remain anonymous, please indicate that in your message so that I do not mention your name if I am to read your question aloud. We will have a question and answer session at the end as well. We'd also like you to write down this website address, and that is atticusadvantage.com/get started. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about Atticus. Atticus was founded in 1989 by Mark Powers and our other shareholders. And Atticus provides in-depth support and accountability programs for lawyers and firms to help you not only increase your revenues, but we also want to help you reduce the stress and the number of hours that you spend in the office. Overall, we want you to develop a greater sense of career satisfaction and allow you more time for your family and personal interests, the things that really matter to you. As I mentioned, Mark is the president and founder of Atticus. He's been coaching family law attorneys on practice management and marketing for over 25 years. He is one of the top legal coaches in the country, and if you've ever had the opportunity to hear him speak, you understand he is very dynamic, and there is a lot of great strategy and education when you're in one of his programs. So we're happy to have him here today. He is also the author of 3 of our management books here for attorneys: Time Management for Attorneys, How Good Attorneys Become Great Rainmakers, and Hire Slow, Fire Fast. So without further ado, I'm going to give this over to Mark. Mark, thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone. I want to apologize up front. I have a bit of a cold that I'm dealing with, so I apologize for that. If my voice starts to get a little scratchy or something, I'll stop and take some water. So the name of this session is How to Dominate the Family Law Market. And it's a little bit more than that. The question at hand for me is going to be, how does a good family lawyer build a great, and I mean a great law firm, one that can not only have a competitive advantage in the marketplace, but dominate the market? So if you have been invited to this call has not been opened up to the general public because it is only open to family law attorneys. So if you're on this call, you're on for one of a couple of reasons. You're probably already successful at your matrimonial practice, and you're probably already a leader in your marketplace, or you're very successful in your marketplace. For some of you, may have been stuck in the practice. It doesn't give you the financial returns or the free time you want. Some of you, and I'm sure this isn't all of you, may be experiencing a little bit of burnout. And I think this is true for most of us on the call. The practice is still highly dependent on us. Not that we, at your level, you can't take vacations, but we know that if we take you away for any extended time, the practice, the income, everything starts to fall down. Clients in your practice may look at you as the primary one that can solve their problems. So when they look to the practice, they don't look always to the firm, they look to you. And while you may already be a leader in your firm, you have a lot of issues still to work on if you're on this call. You probably have some staffing issues, client selection issues. Most everyone should be trying to up their game around marketing and cash flow. And you also still have a competitive drive. You want to do better. You're not committed to the status quo, and you're curious what else is possible. And again, while you may be a leader, you want to surround yourself with other great business owners, other family law owners that'll challenge you to new heights. You want to go from being the go-to lawyer that everybody turns to you to the go-to firm, and you don't want to be left behind while others take on an interesting and great new adventure. And for some of you, you're here because someone directed you, because you're curious about an Atticus program. whether it's the practice growth program or the Dominate Your Market program, and you're curious about whether it's a right fit for you. So we're going to talk about a lot of those things, and here's our basic agenda. I want to talk about something today called the critical decision, and it's I think that we need to understand it to grow our family law practices, to gain a competitive advantage, and take better care of your clients. So we're going to talk a bit about that. I'm going to take you, and I know that some of you, I know Larry, you're on the call, you've seen the strategic pathway before. For some of you, it really is critical that you get reminded of it. And I want you in the background not to be a passive listener. On this call, I want you to be actively looking for either a valuable insight, because I'm going to ask you about that, or an action that you can take away from this conversation. So let's not have this just be a think about it webinar. Let's have it come away with something valuable that you can use today, that you can use tomorrow, and you can go your practice. As a matter of fact, I will probably have, and you can write these names down, I'll probably ask you to take some action, and I will have someone write these names down by Larry, Denise, Daniel, or Jeff. Someone follow up and make sure you've done something, so this isn't just a think about it. At the end, I'll make sure you understand the distinction between the Practice Growth Program and the Dominate Your Market, and whether it's a fit for you. So let's jump into it. One of the things that Atticus we're always working on is whether our, let me rephrase that, we're always working on leadership. And the question is, does leadership matter? And so that's not a rhetorical, well, it's not really a rhetorical answer. I want you to, if you're there, write it on a piece of paper, because this audio doesn't allow you to just let me know. Does leadership matter? From your perspective, and how much does it matter? And clearly the answer is yes. Your leadership style, your leadership mindset, and write down that word mindset. Your leadership mindset will either accelerate the growth of the firm or it will stifle it. And a lot about growing law firms and developing a law firm and reducing the dependency on you has a lot to do with your mindset and your leadership style. And so we talk a lot about that at Atticus. And so how do we grow your practice? Well, we have to have a breakthrough in one of the, well, actually a couple of mindsets, but the first one we have to have a breakthrough in is something called the GreatLawyer Mindset. Please write that down. This is the first thing that most attorneys have to have a breakthrough in. It's called the GreatLawyer Mindset. And I'll go through this so it becomes very, very clear what it is. So let me spend just a second before I clarify that, talking about mindset. I think you guys, everyone on this call knows this, but your eyes only see and your ears only hear what your mindset is looking for. So if you're of a particular growth mindset, you start looking for different answers. If you are a status quo mindset, you don't tend to you tend to look at the status quo sort of issues, and that's going to be clear in a moment when I talk about the GreatLawyer Mindset and the Practice Growth Mindset. So a very raw, I would say raw example of this is if we're conservative, politically conservative leaning, we will tend to look for answers, and we will see things and hear things that are consistent with our beliefs. And the same is true for if we're on the liberal side of the spectrum. We tend to listen for and hear and see things that fit our beliefs and our mindset. And you know, it explains a lot that's going on for a lot of us right now. So we need to really delve into understanding the mindsets as it impacts the law firm. And I'm going to do that through two conversations. One is the strategic pathway. So for this conversation, I'm going to ask you to bring out a blank piece of paper. Just put a piece of paper, and I'm going to ask you to take some notes and draw something for me. And as I get into the pathway, I'm assuming that everyone here, when you were younger, did jigsaw puzzles. Yes? You probably worked on a jigsaw puzzle or two. And you probably had a strategy when you worked on jigsaw puzzles. And think about this for a second. You probably, some of you were corner people, and you'll take all the corners and you'll put them around. Some of you were shapes, and you would take all of the similar size shapes and put them together. And some of you were colors, and you take all the different colors and you would put them together. So do you remember what you were when you did jigsaw puzzles? You're one of those three. But what you eventually found out, and what we all eventually found out, is that we really had to start with the big picture. We had to start with the cover on the box. And then we could really work on the puzzle. And so what I want to assert to you is that when we look at the marketplace for family law practice, it's like this. You have a lot of the pieces, but you may not know what the front of the box looks like and what pieces are missing. So I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to have you draw it out, because if we were in person, I'd give you a form and we could do this. This is called the strategic pathway. And you can see that the pathway has 3 lines, or 3 tiers. So it's the first tier here, and I would like you to draw a line between 1 and 2, and then 1, 2, and 3. So you should have 3 distinct tiers. And we'll name each one of these tiers, and then I'll talk about them, and you can make notes on them. But this will start to help you understand what either keeps us stuck or what helps us break through and grow, and not only grow, but dominate the marketplace as a family law practice. And you can see where your mindsets are at play here. So the first tier that we have there is the great lawyer mindset. And below the great lawyer mindset, if you're drawing this out, put 80%. Because 80% of your competitors, 80% of the other family law lawyers, and maybe even some of us on the call, are operating at this level. And this is, this is not, it's not a bad thing, but it's a place that we can get stuck and stifled. So I'm going to break out this first stage in a moment, and we'll look at it. So the second is called the practice growth mindset, and the third stage is the market leader mind stage. So you should have a line between each of those and those drawn there, and then you can make some notes as I do this. So I'm going to break this out, and each stage has strategies, results, traps, and blind spots, right? So what are the strategies of 80% of the family lawyers out there that have the great lawyer mindset? They tend to take an academic approach to the world, and they look at, listen, this is why I went into law. I want to be a great lawyer, and if I can get another CLE or another certification or another specialty, it's all going to work out. So I just got to get a little better at practicing law. Now, we don't want to demean this in any way, because certainly that's your ticket into this game, as being a very good or a great lawyer. But you can get stuck here. And I challenge most of you on this call that have been practicing for a number of years and ask you this question. If you got one more CLE or one more certification, how would that impact your income? I'm guessing not very much. And so there's something else that will impact the quality of life and your income other than just developing more substantive knowledge. The other strategy they have here is, if I work really hard, it's all going to work out. So they start working evenings, weekends at this stage, and they develop a heroic, definitely write this one down, they develop what we call a heroic leadership style. And what we mean by that is that there's no problem too small, there's no opportunity too small that they shouldn't be involved in. And like the hero of any story, when the hero goes away for any length of time, the story collapses. And in a law firm, when the hero goes away, either the firm collapses or the income collapses. So we want to notice that we may have developed a heroic leadership mindset or management style. The results that you see for 80% of your peers, 80% of your family law competitors, is they have stagnant or falling incomes. They're working long hours, not usually getting a lot of weekends, a lot of stress during the day. It feels like constant interruptions. They can be very vulnerable to market forces and changes, and the practice owns them. They like to think they have a law firm, but in truth, the law firm has them. And they have some blind spots. They don't know what they don't know, and that sounds a little conceptual, doesn't it? A little like, duh, I don't know what I don't know. But what they don't know is that the harder they work, the more hours they put in, that they're going to diminish their income over time, especially their profit. What they don't know is the more that they try to stay on top of people and things is that they're squashing talent. What they don't know is that they need boundaries that allow them to focus and have structure. So there's a lot they don't know at this stage, and they're working in the business, in the law firm, doing it. And so this is a particular mindset issue, and I want you to think about this. At the Great Lawyer Mindset, one of the questions the Great Lawyer asks every morning, their mindset is looking for this. They open up the front door, they turn on a pile of files, they turn on the computer, open a pile of files, and what's the first question we ask? What work has to be done? And that's the mindset. They're looking at and trying to figure out crisis, solving crisis, working and doing as much substantive work as I can do, and dealing with all the other things sort of as as an also. I have to also do it. So they're in it, and I want you to remember that question. The other thing that they do, they tend to, without knowing it, they're building a job, not necessarily a business, where they can earn decent income, but they never really are building profit or getting some independence out of it. And the other blind spot they have is they lack personal boundaries. And what we mean by that is because they can't resolve the administrative issues, the staffing issues, the client selection issues, the interruptions, the time management issues, they'll make up for that lack of management with giving up some of their personal life. So I can't get it done during the day, so I'll come in the evening. And that's not even enough. I'll work a little bit from home after dinner, or I'll come in on the weekends, or I'll work from home, and pretty soon I don't have vacation because I just can't stand coming back to all the crisis when I take vacation. And after a little while, the boundaries are very, very blurred. And so in the next stage, the next mindset, you'll start to see that boundaries become critical, because at this level we're actually cheating the business model, because I can't get it done inside the boundaries. I'll do it outside and give away my life and my income to do it. I know that sounds dramatic, but that's exactly what's happening. So at the Great Lawyer Mindset, if we want to break through this to a new way of thinking and looking for new answers, we've got to make a critical decision. And I'll give you this critical decision. Write this down. Critical decision is, this is a business, and if I run this business well, it'll allow me not only to be a great lawyer, it'll allow me to take better care of my clients. It'll allow me to take the revenue and the profit that I deserve out of this practice and the income I deserve, and it'll give me the freedom that I need. So if I run this as a business and run it well, I can take much better care of my clients, myself, and my team. So that's a critical decision. And this is something I want you to look for. I want you to look for this in yourself, because intellectually you might get that it's a business, but you may not be treating it or attacking it like a business. So we break through this stage to the practice growth mindset, and I'm going to blow that out as well so you can see it. And I'm going to open up the strategies so you can write them down, and I'm going to start with the bottom one. At this practice growth mindset, when they break through and they realize it's a business and they're working on it, they ask a very different question, and the mindset looks and hears different answers. So in the Great Lawyer Mindset, the question was, what work do I have to do today? At this level, at the practice growth mindset, the question is, and write this down, how must the business work today? And then you fill in the gap. How must the business work today so that I can go home on time? How must the business work today so I can double the value I give my client? How must the business work today so that I can take a 2-week vacation? God forbid, 3-week or 4-week vacation. How must the business, and come home and have the business run? How must the business work today so I can take out the income and profit that I deserve? So it's a radically different question and a different mindset. At the GreatLawyer Mindset, you could ask them, what's the most valuable thing we do here? And their answer would be what? They would say, it's the work. And you ask that same question at the Practice Growth Mindset, and they say, no, no, no. It is the work of the business to provide value for the clients. Very, very different. It is the work of the business to provide value for the client. So that's one of the differences in the mindset. The mindset here, and I'll go to the top of the strategies, they start to look at marketing as one of their most critical things they could do every day. Now, I've got to be able to manage the substantive stuff. I've got to be able to delegate my substantive work where I can, but I've got to put a primary focus on marketing. And if you've been around Atticus at all for any length of time, you know our motto around marketing is that we can never, ever, 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 ever stop the marketing, because we need people to be knocking at the door so we can be selective about the ones we let in. The people at the great lawyer stage don't market enough, and they're not selective, so they pretty much practice threshold law. Anybody that comes through the door pretty much gets in. So the more selective we can be, the more we're going to raise the average value per file. And that's the second one, raise the case value. When we look at good family law practices, on average, they're raising their case values 10% a year. And we see that go up. And when we see that go up, we know that it's a well-managed firm. So put a question mark there if you have a question later on about why case value makes a difference. And by the way, if you needed an action, and I recommend you take one, is figure out what your average fee per file is. And you may have different ranges, and you may have average fees for different attorneys in your firm. The other strategy is they become far more selective with clients and staff. You know, and I think you all know this. There was a reason we wrote the book Hire Slow, Fire Fast, is because attorneys do the very opposite. They hire very fast, and then they adopt the employees, and they can't find a way to let them go. So very, very important. Most of your headaches, 80% of our headaches are going to come from we made a poor choice, a poor decision around client selection or staff selection. So at Practice Growth, you start to make better choices. You still make mistakes, but you make better choices at strategic points, especially around case selection, staff selection, and when to let people go or when to let clients go. So as a result, they build a solid team, and they develop a sustainable infrastructure. So that's an important distinction, isn't it? A sustainable infrastructure means that they have an infrastructure so they can grow. And what is sustainable infrastructure? It means I have a process for how we market. And we can repeat that process. And at some point that process isn't dependent on me. So the other thing that we might have in place is we have a process for that. We have a process for staffing. How we recruit, hire, test, develop, and if appropriate, terminate people. We have a system for that. And we have a system for how we manage our time throughout the day. And we have a system for how we manage our cash flow. So those become, and I'm going to show you in a little bit, they become a platform for growth once you get your infrastructure together. So what are the results we see here? Well, at the Practice Growth Mindset, and by the way, this represents, I said the bottom GreatLawyer Mindset represented 80%. This represents 15% of the marketplace. So 15% of your peers, and you may be one of them, are operating someplace in this mindset. And so they get more personal freedom, fewer hours, more vacation, good revenue, and good profits. So what's a good profit for a family law firm? You might write this down. And if I took another action I might take is, and when Denise or Jeff or Larry follows up with you, I'm going to ask them to ask you, what's the action you took away? And one might be, I measured my average case value, or I measured my profit. A good profit number, a healthy one for a family law practice, is 30 to 35% above and beyond shareholder salary. I'll say that again. A healthy profit for a family law practice is 30 to 35% above and beyond what we pay the shareholder. Now, that's a whole other formula and a whole other conversation we won't go into here, but there is a way to look at that. They definitely have better clients, more dependable team, and in some cases they can double their revenues because they got the infrastructure to do it, and they can take a month-long sabbatical, which I know for many of you sounds impossible. Now that usually happens at the market leader mindset a lot more than it happens here, but they're looking at the practice entirely different. They're looking for answers that solve systems, that solve talent. They're looking for answers that help them make better choices at strategic points in the firm that gives them a return on the investment and time. And by anyone's standards, they're successful. And I put that here because this is part of their trap at this level. A lot of our practice growth attorneys can get trapped here just as well as you can get trapped at the great lawyer mindset. Granted, this isn't a bad place to be trapped, but the trap becomes their income is still based on increased personal role. And what that means is if I've marketed well and I've raised my retainers and my hourly rate, or even I've gone to flat billing for a matrimonial practice, which very few people have, some of you have. If I've done that, it's still dependent on me. I'm getting more money, and it looks like, and I'm actually using less files, and it looks like it's all working out, but it's still very dependent, and I'm still the heroic leader. The organization is still dependent on me, and if I'm not careful here, I grow comfortable and arrogant, which I think is always dangerous for any of us, because when we're not growing, there's something going on. The firm's not growing, we're not developing. And when I say grow, I don't mean we're just growing in numbers of people, because I'm not committed to that, but growing in our leadership ability, growing in our talent development, just growing. And so they become very comfortable here because they don't have a bigger game to play. And they look around, they think they're doing better than a lot of other people. And it's a very dangerous place to be. If you've ever seen me talk about this before, I usually talk about the myth of Sisyphus, which you all know in Greek mythology was the Sisyphus was punished by the gods by pushing a rock up a hill until it either became too heavy and it would roll back down, and he was cursed to do this for the rest of his life. So he was punished to a life of futility. And you see this in the great lawyer mindset. What happens here is they do a little bit of porpoising. They start to build, push that rock up the hill by building their practice. They hire a few people, they start marketing, and something goes wrong and they collapse back down. And it goes over and over and over, and they end up going through this lifetime of futility, and they give up at some point and get burned out because it's not worth it. And so when we talked about the sustainable infrastructure, what you want to think about is when you get to here, we build a platform, and that platform is the system, staffing, cash flow, time management, marketing, where we rest the boulder and we start to rebuild again, and we look differently and we approach things differently. The other thing I'll say about this, it's easier to get out of the great lawyer mindset into the practice growth mindset than it is to go to the next level, because you're driven from the first mindset by pain. You all get that? We're working too many hours, we're not pulling out the kind of money we want, we've got high stress, we're not exercising, a lot of things go down there. So this next step, which is about, you can write it down, is about 5% of the marketplace, is the market leader mindset. And so it's a decision of mastery. I'm not doing it because I have to. I do it because I'm committed to excellence. I'm committed to growing. I'm committed to learning how to run a practice better than anyone else could be, and I'm committed to being a dominant player in my marketplace and having a competitive advantage over 95% of the marketplace. And so that's the market leader mindset. And so we'll blow that out very quickly. I can go through the strategies. Here we're at a post-heroic mindset, and the post-heroic mindset means we've killed off the leader. And by killing off the leader, what we mean is we've taken away those roles that are not your highest and best use. And we've focused you on talent development, people development, systems development, and in some case, marketing. But the firm is not dependent on you. We have other heroes, associates, other partners. The firm becomes the hero, but it's not you. And the mindset doesn't look at just marketing anymore. We don't lose that focus, but we start focusing on profit centers. This mindset looks for profit centers, that my associates and paralegals are profit centers, and profit drives passive income to the shareholders, which in a healthy firm we need to see. In this thing, they start looking not just at building a firm, they start recognizing and looking for cultural development. How do I develop my team? How do I lead and develop a culture here? And the culture, one of the cultures they look at is constant improvement, a Kaizen approach. They keep developing their team, and they keep looking at what's one thing we could do today to take better care of the client. And everyone on the team develops this culture. What's one thing we could do today to improve the physical space? What's one small thing we could do today to add value to the process? From a marketing perspective, they've learned to market the firm and the team, and they've figured out how to shift the client asking for them, only them, to the rest of the team, to almost assume that everybody doesn't look at them, and there's systems and processes to doing that. And because they've created more time to think and more time to develop, more time to strategize, which is one of their biggest roles that's been ignored by most of your competitors, they can start looking at innovation, because we're in an incredibly competitive market. In 1968, there was one attorney for every 1,200 Americans, man, woman, and child. Right now, it's one. So I said one for every 1,200. Now it's one attorney for every 250 Americans, man, woman, and child. So that's a dramatic shift. And it's a competitive marketplace. We have to look for innovations. And the other thing is they get a management structure in place, people that can manage the organization and manage the teams. So it's not all dependent on them. So as a result, they end up getting recognized as a market leader and even a dominant player, because they have more time to brand, they have more time to strategize, more time to market properly. They get more passive income. So how you break away from the heroic model is that you have to make more money from passive income than substantive salary or wage. So that's more money from profit than you do. The hero makes it off of substantive salary and wage, if that makes sense. They build a legacy organization around them, meaning that they have a succession plan where people are either buying out, they're transitioning to attorneys inside the firm, and that goes in over time, and it's not going to die out with them. And they actually get to transition value and collect value from what they've built. So they have a legacy plan in place, a great team in place, not dependent on them, and more autonomy, personal freedom, fun, and joy than most people can imagine. And I'm not kidding, at this level it happens. You know, at this level, the market leader mindset, that market leader stage, we have a program, and I'll talk about it a little bit, called the Dominate Your Market program. In there, they have a challenge. Write that down. Dominate Your Market. They have a challenge where they have to get to 175 days off a year, including weekends, and they'll do it. But what happens is you cannot take that time and still be a hero. It's going to force you over time to build an organization that is post-heroic. And so that's why we do it. I won't give you the blind spots here. I'll just tell you quickly what happens to the market leader. They have a fear of being irrelevant at this level, so they sometimes porpoise back into the practice growth mindset. And sometimes they run out of purpose, believe it or not. They've accomplished a lot of things and they run out of purpose. I mentioned there was porpoising and there's gravitational pull. So there's things that will constantly pull you back through as you try to rise up through this strategic pathway. It's you, your thinking, it's your relationships, the referral sources you have today, some of the vendors that you have today, some of the clients you have today, some of the staff you have today are insufficient to get you to the next level. The past, you'll keep going back. This is the way we always used to do it, and you won't look to the future. Professional resources, technology, where you put your attention, focus management will put you back. If you put your focus on marketing, it's going to make an enormous distinction. Or profit, it's going to make it, you start looking and asking different questions. Quickly, I want to go through a couple of other things on this, and I'll bring to a place where we can get some challenges and questions. Key strategies for change. So this is really the Atticus formula for change, and you can write these three. There's three of them, but the truth is that they work for anything you do in life. They're the key strategies, whether you're going to get in shape, whether you're going to play music, whether you're going to be a great fisherman, whether you're going to be a great golfer, anything you take on, these three strategies are critical for you to change. And the first thing that has to be in place, write these down, is a compelling reason. There has to be a compelling reason for you to do it. So you're not going to get in shape, and no one's going to make you get in shape, no matter how many gym memberships they buy you, unless you decide first to get in shape. And so no one's going to take you to the next level in your practice if you're not committed to doing it, if you're not committed to getting to the practice growth stage, if you're not committed to getting systems in place and process, nobody's going to force you to do it. You have to be driven to get out of that pain, or the same thing. No one's going to drive you to mastery. You're going to have to be committed to that. And then after we're committed, there has to be some accountability and follow-up. Without that, inertia takes place. For many of you, if you've ever used a personal trainer, it's why you go to the gym, because the personal trainer is waiting for you. And then there has to be guidance and direction, some structure that gives you the information that allows you to go faster than your competitors. It's a coaching structure that has seen it before, knows how to get you there, and pulls you in those directions. So you need a compelling reason, goals, big goals, accountability, follow-up, guidance, and direction. If you would, write those down. So that's the strategic pathway, and you want to look. And see, where are you on this pathway, and be brutally honest with yourself. You really have to confront where you are on this, and you have to. The next thing you have to confront is, what am I committed to? Am I committed? Do I have a status quo mindset, or do I have a growth mindset? And growth mindset means that I'm open to growing, I'm open to learning, I'm ready to learn, I want to go to the next level, there's something else in front of me. So I'll give you one other quick way to look at this, which is a little repetitive, and I'll go through it fast. So the GreatLawyer Mindset, and if you've ever read a book by Michael Gerber, he talks about working in the business, but the GreatLawyer Mindset moves to the practice growth mindset. And so when we're working in the firm, we're looking at focus on income. Here on the firm, you focus on marketing and profits. This mindset, GreatLawyer Mindset, looks at the work is the most important thing we do. On the firm, the work of the business is to produce value for the clients. Here we focus on getting through the day. Here we work on cornerstone systems, systems that make people look great. Personal boundaries at the working in it GreatLawyer Mindset are fungible, and here working boundaries are critical to our growth. Structure is our friend, and we have a heroic leader at the GreatLawyer Mindset. And so if we make that same jump from working on the firm, the practice growth mindset, and we look at the market leader, so we're working on it, but instead of working on the firm, we're actually working on other leaders now. And that's an interesting distinction for that mindset, the dominate your market mindset. So it's post-heroic style. We're actively creating talent vacuum. What's a talent vacuum? A talent vacuum is when we can step away for a large chunk of time, and it allows your associates and paralegals to step up and solve problems and make small mistakes. Every single one of us has grown through making mistakes. When you're constantly there, or you don't go away for a long enough time, it allows them to defer decisions till you get back. And it doesn't allow them to take responsibility and accountability and make small mistakes so they can learn. And at this level, the GreatLawyer Mindset, we develop and we act as a catalyst for other talent. We focus on profit center, vision, and strategic perspective. So it's the same conversation, strategic pathway, just looked at a little bit differently. And I hope you're getting the sense that mindsets, we start to look for different things. Your eyes will only see, and your ears will only hear what your mindset is looking for. So market leader mindset, that mindset gives you a competitive advantage over 95% of your competitors, dramatically increases your joy, personal income, and fun. So I'm going to go into a couple of stages here where I want to give you some homework, and I also want to talk to those of you that are here to see if it's a fit, one of the programs a fit for you. These are the 3 upcoming programs. The January Practice Growth Program is already sold out. In January, we're starting the Dominate Your Market program. So that's somebody that's in the practice growth stage or mindset that's doing well and is committed to getting to the next level. And you'll be in a program, and I'll give you some information on this in a minute, with 20 to 25 other family law attorneys, really great family law attorneys around the country that challenge each other and that go to a whole other level with running a practice. And I know you're good now. I know some of you are on this call and that you're good, but I promise you, you haven't even scratched the surface of being a great leader for your practice. And those of you that are looking at the fundamentals and breaking through and staying out of that great lawyer mindset into the practice growth mindset, the next practice growth program is April 27th and 28th in Orlando. If you're on this call and you're interested in practice growth, you can ask someone at Atticus. We're doing one on the West Coast in May. So those are the 3 programs. Let me talk about Dominate Your Market real quick. So this is, again, for the market leader, a person that's breaking through. They're not there yet. They have some pieces of the puzzle, but they're breaking through. So it's an advanced coaching program, and it's designed to transform your experience and mindset around the practice of law while giving you an enormous competitive advantage, one that'll last you a lifetime. You will not be bored, and you will have enormous growth. By the way, I will say this is being facilitated by myself, and it is the only program that I will facilitate by myself this year. As a matter of fact, it's probably the last one I'll do with Dominate Your Market. But it is family law specific, and it's come from requests from a number of family law attorneys that I respect. So it's the only one that we'll be doing for family law attorneys like this. They have 5 challenges in that program when they start it. It takes them a little while to get there, but they're going for it. So they're positioning themselves as the market leader, the go-to firm. Their second challenge is they have to play for 175 days off. And inside of that, that means that they get some, they work up to it, they work their team up to it, but it trains their brain, it trains their team, and it gives them a lot of freedom in their life. At this stage, they're going to earn they have to break through 50% of their income from profit, not production. And you put down groundwork for succession and sale of your practice if you decide to do that. You will have a succession plan, and you will create an innovation that's not being done in the marketplace. So there's 5 challenges that we rally around. Now, you may have your own goals, and you will, but these are the unifying ones for the team, and we're all working on these. So we're developing our leadership skills, we're developing our marketing skills, we're developing our team development skills in this thing. So in addition, you'll transform from the heroic leader to the transformative leader, I'm sorry. You'll hack every part of your practice. I know this sounds weird, but when I mean hack, we're going to take your practice apart, the different pieces, and we're going to put them back together in a really powerful way that you haven't even imagined before. Your marketing, your staffing, your cash flow. I know that some of you have it systemized, but we're going to take it apart and we're going to put it back together even better. So we won't disrupt it when we take it apart and destroy it, but we'll be able to replace it with some interesting hacks. You'll move from revenue to profit, from custom to systems. So customs is when I have a great paralegal or associate and they leave, so leaves the system. We build systems that make our paralegals and associates look great. When they leave, the system stays. And you'll have a finite practice life to a legacy firm. You'll go from a finite practice life to a legacy firm. And it'll be one of the most interesting and, I can tell you, challenging, rewarding times of your life to be in that. Yes, your income will go up dramatically. Your time in the office will go down dramatically. And if you don't know the practice advisors, you don't know me. We really do fight for your personal time, for your income, but that's not the reason we do this work. It is for the business. If you take off time, it'll benefit your life, but it benefits the firm even more. You'll definitely have more fun. You'll create passive income through profit centers. You'll have far better referral sources. We're going to build what we call a DYM referral portfolio that has you dominate, master the marketplace. Qualifications for the dominate your market is you have to be coachable. You have to be committed to a lifelong learner. You really want to be surrounded with people that are learners. They want to keep growing. You should have a minimum of $200,000 in personal income out of the practice. You want to make sure the practice is doing that well. You should have a decent to strong team. If you're below that number, I would definitely talk to Denise or Larry or Jeff to see if it's at all appropriate. It usually isn't. You should have a decent to strong team, and you should be confident about some of your basics: time management, client development, cash flow, building a great team. So I'll say something here. If I'm a family law attorney and I'm not confident and I haven't reached these qualifications, I probably should be looking at the practice growth program, because that's where we solidify these things. That's where we bring those things home. It's an annual commitment. You should know this. We meet quarterly, and it's the quarterly sessions are in Orlando. People travel from all over the country to do them. They love them because it forces them to get out of the office, think about the practice, and it forces accountability. Some of them don't get what they need to get done until that last week before they have to go away to our coaching session, but they get it done. We meet the first day from 1:30 to 6, and then that means people can fly in the morning, and then we meet the second day from 8:30 to 3:30 p.m. That means they can fly out in the afternoon, and they usually have one night at the hotel. So you're made up of a community of similar attorneys, those that are committed to growth and good players, and curriculum is focused on practical breakthrough issues. The Dominate Your Market program, it's at the Hyatt. It's a fly-in, fly-out hotel. You never have to leave the airport. The first session is January 26th and 27th. So I would reserve that time if you're considering that at all. And I think I put up the dates, but someone will get you the dates for practice growth as well. Your investment. The first attorney is $14,950. The second attorney is $9,500 if someone else comes from your firm. And then if you bring a team leader, which we highly recommend, the people that are doing the Dominate Your Market program recommends that, because when you go back, it really makes a big difference on execution and getting things done. Obviously, I know that many of you have played around Atticus, been around Atticus for a little while. If after you decide you attend the first session and you think it's not everything we've said or not the right team, we'll refund you, give you a full refund from the program. So it's not an inexpensive program, but it's certainly it's not a high risk if you have a problem. But I would tell you that we've never had this issue because people find incredible value. The investment, the return on the investment far, far, far exceeds what you'll make on this program. So I'm always reminded when I do these kind of webinars that there's thinkers and then there's doers, and the doers do something. So I want to make sure that you take an action out of this, and I'd like you to do me a favor and write down what's the most important recommendation or action that you can take out of this session. So we talked about a lot of things around mindset. So it could be anything from, I've been goofing around about this for a little while. There's someone on my team that I need to let go. If I'm going to grow this firm, there's someone on the team that I need to be letting go or have a serious conversation with. Or I need to hire someone because I can't delegate. There's some action that you need to take. For some of you, that action is to, and I mean this with all of my heart, is to get into either the practice growth or the Dominate Your Market program. We know from all of our experiences that when we're committed to something and we're surrounded by people that are committed to something, we make changes. But we need that structure and we need that coaching. Some of you aren't clear, and I think that Mike said this in the beginning. There's a website. As a matter of fact, I'll put that up in a second. I'm sorry, I thought I showed you that. So I want you to write down 2 actions. By the way, I'm going to have either Denise or Jeff or Larry or Daniel, someone's going to follow up in a week or so, or maybe sooner, and they're going to know, what are you doing? What are you taking away? What's the biggest insight you're taking away from this conversation, and what action are you going to take out of this conversation? So for some of you, listen, Mark, I know you've told me about the programs, what's a fit for me. I'm still not sure. I think everyone and anyone that's practicing law should do something called a practice growth diagnostic. It's an hour conversation, and it's an assessment of your practice. It looks at your time management, your staffing, your cash flow, and then it does a behavioral profile on you. We've done thousands of these on matrimonial attorneys. We've got white papers on it, and it can show you where your strengths are and the places that you need to work on, especially around your behavioral profile. Very valuable to do. To do the diagnostic, it's $295, and that includes the assessment of your practice, the DISC assessment, the call, the reports, and all of that. And you get that at the Atticus Advantage, and I think Mike gave you that website. So write that down, Atticus Advantage. Mike, I know I only have a few minutes left, so I can take a question or two if there are any. And I went through a lot of information very quickly. So, Mike, do we have any questions?
We have not had any typed in yet. We have one hand raised, and I'll get to that shortly. But if you do have a question, you can type it in using your GoToWebinar chat box on your dashboard there. If you do want that question to remain anonymous, please indicate so in your message to me. We have one hand raised, and that is by Ken. Ken, I'm going to unmute you, and you can speak to the group. So, Ken, are you there?
Ken, can you hear me?
Okay, he may have gotten that question answered through something you said later on during the broadcast. So I'm going to move on. Again, we don't have any questions right now, but if something occurs to you after today's webinar, you can email us at hello@atticusadvantage.com, and we will get back with you as soon as possible. Again, be looking for one of the customer representatives to contact you, our client service people. That's Jeff, Daniel, Larry, or Denise. And thank you again today for attending. Mark, thank you very much. Thanks for going through everything with the cold that you've been dealing with. But you did a wonderful job, and that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for everybody in the call, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye, everyone.